Hi everyone, you're watching the Haider Rifaat Show and I'm your host Haider Rifaat. Today I'm joined by Aida Khan. She is the founder of the restaurant SHOLA Karachi Kitchen, which is based in London and also has a flagship outlet here in Islamabad. Thank you so much, Aida, for joining me. It's a pleasure having you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Great. Now, Aida, before we jump right into SHOLA Karachi Kitchen, tell me a bit about your experience hosting the show at Dawn News, which was for the love of food. Why did you decide to take a back seat on that and pursue a more entrepreneurial side with Shola?
So For the Love of Food started many years ago. It was about 12 years ago. Now I'm aging myself telling you that I did that 12 years ago. It was one of the first sort of food shows on an English news channel. The energy was amazing. It was a fabulous show. I sort of stopped doing that because of changes in family life and all of that. Had to, to sort of take a back seat because we were moving, and I did a couple of seasons. Absolutely loved it. I still say it was one of the best experiences I've had career-wise ever.
And we are not really seeing that kind of culture right now where we have shows that promote the culture side of Pakistan more. So that is also another drawback that I feel that is in our mainstream media as well, don't you think?
I feel that, with times everything changes. So there was, in the beginning, all you had in Pakistan was Pakistani cuisine and the provincial cuisine, and people were talking about that. And then with the media opening up, you got a lot more foreign influence as well, right?
Yeah.
So then we started focusing a lot more on looking outwards. But with that, I think that we're now starting to, Pakistani people are, and even the younger generation is starting to once again appreciate our own food and our own culture and sort of take a lot of pride in it. Because now that we are able to sort of compete on the global platform, that's how I find there's more pride now in our Pakistani food.
Definitely. Now, speaking of Shola, why did you decide to rebrand the name from Karachi Kitchen, because it was originally titled Karachi Kitchen, to Shola?
So Karachi Kitchen was the flagship that, like you said, in Islamabad.
Yeah.
It's almost like a cloud kitchen. It's a commercial kitchen set up to international standards. I've trained as a chef, so I had sort of come here, set up my kitchen in Islamabad, trained the staff, and the plan had actually been to open up Shola sort of first over here and kind of get everything started over
in
here.
Islamabad.
In Islamabad, and kind of do that. And then I wanted to make it a brand that we took abroad, as opposed to, how you bring a lot of brands from abroad here. I really wanted to take a brand that we created here abroad. And that's what I did.
And kind of promote that image of Pakistan through food.
Absolutely, because it's a beautiful image. I mean, we've got such a rich culture. I mean, I think our food is just not talked about enough. So we sort of set it up over here, and it was called Karachi Kitchen because it was Islamabad, and I wanted to differentiate and kind of explain, and Karachi is where I'm from. Very proud of my roots. So, we weren't finding the authentic Karachi food in Islamabad. So it started with that Karachi Kitchen, and then when we were launching in London, I wanted to keep the name Karachi Kitchen in it, but I wasn't sure if it would resonate a lot with the audience. I thought we needed another name with it to sort of, the byline is Karachi Kitchen because it's Karachi Cuisine.
So something was empty there. So you needed a filler.
I needed a name that was easier to sort of roll off the tongue, and Shola Shola to me is a spark, right?
Yeah.
And
it's a great name, by the way. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it is.
And it's sort of, we call it the spark because we use all our barbecue in London as well is done on a charcoal grill, which is very rare for an Asian restaurant. You use more gas grills, and you sort of pretend it's barbecue, but it's not really. You just put char marks on it. So we really do a proper barbecue that you'd get over here on the streets. And so it's Shola, which is the first spark that you light when you light that flame. And I also call it Shola because I feel like we're igniting the flame for Pakistani food all across the world.
Definitely.
And so that's why it was Karachi Kitchen here, and then when we sort of opened there, it was Shola Karachi Kitchen, and I decided that we needed the Shola here as well, just to make it under the same brand umbrella.
Speaking of which, talk to our viewers a bit more about the Islamabad flagship store, Shola Karachi Kitchen, because we already know that it's well established here in London. But what about in Islamabad? Talk to us a bit more about that.
So in Islamabad, it is, like I said, it's a takeaway and delivery service that we offer. It's a commercial kitchen. It's got a full menu. We have a daily menu, which is available every single day or throughout. And we do some weekend brunches on Sundays. We do your halwa puri. We do, you've got your high tea options as well. So we really, but the whole thing that we focus on really is authenticity in the food. Absolute hygiene, like the hygiene standards are very high because, again, in Islamabad or in Pakistan, generally the association with like street food and all of that is that the hygiene standards may not always be up to mark, and which some people do think it makes the food taste better, and I agree. On the streets it does, but I think we all need to guarantee that hygiene standards are met, and the recipes are also very traditional. So it's all, it's like my mother's baghare bangan because she's got Hyderabadi background, or it's my khala's biryani that we always talk about. It's like a proper Sindhi biryani. So we've got a lot of dishes that really resonate a lot with comfort food almost, but done in a very pure way. There are no shortcuts. We make our own masala. I don't use any store-bought sort of mixes. Our garam masala is ours, our chaat masala is ours, which we're now actually also packaging and selling.
Okay.
And everything is just ground on site, because I think that I really wanted to bring back that feeling of your grandmother's kitchen, when you're sitting there growing up and you're smelling those, you walk into the house and there's scents there and that just takes over. That kind of food was really missing, and that's what we've brought to Islamabad. We do takeaway and delivery. We've also now, during COVID, had to sort of shift the model a little, and we also supply sort of healthy food for sort of COVID, people who are COVID positive, or somebody's isolating, or someone's in quarantine. So we set up packages for that as well. So it's almost like, it's one of those things like any entrepreneur, it's just growing and it's kind of taking its own shape. So we're just watching and see.
Yeah. Now, Aida, what gives your brand SHOLA Karachi Kitchen an edge over all other contemporary brands that offer desi food? What gives you that edge?
I honestly feel there is enough there's a big enough pie for everyone to have a slice of. So I don't know if I would say I have an edge. I just think that my sort of distinct quality of it is that it's all home recipes. It is the stuff that we grew up on. I am very particular about making sure that there's no preservatives in the food. Very particular about the fact that it's the kind of food that I would feed my own children. So to make sure that the quality of ingredients is very high. The flavors are always consistent, and we always make sure that even if our customers ever have any complaints, I'm the first one to say that please tell us. That's the only way I can grow as a brand.
Definitely.
We take feedback very seriously. In terms of consistency, I think the biggest problem a restaurant faces is that you'll eat something one day, and at the restaurant you love it, then you want to go back to it, or you tell your friends about it, and next time you order it doesn't taste the same. And that really is the death of a lot of restaurants. So my whole the processes for our recipes are also very ironclad. There are processes that have been written down in such a way that it doesn't matter who's in the kitchen. If they've been trained to follow my steps and our recipes and sort of understand the aesthetic of it, they can pull it off. So the food should not be based on what the chef's mood is like that day, which unfortunately happens a lot.
That does.
In restaurants.
Yeah. Great. Okay, now we also know, Aida, that during the pandemic, COVID-19, when it struck the world initially back in March, the restaurant business overall also experienced a major blow. So how has it been like for you as a businesswoman?
I wouldn't lie. It's like for anyone. I think it's quite devastating. Literally the food and beverage industry has taken a big hit, but so have a lot of industries. So have a lot of other things. Any time that I do feel like, my goodness, what has happened, you kind of have to look outwards and see that a lot of people are in worse positions, and people have lost loved ones. People have lost so much in this that our restaurant is also. So in London, I've had to. I haven't opened since last March because we were in the first year of business, first year of trading. And for any restaurant, the first year of trade is when you're just sort of dipping your toes into the water and kind of figuring it out. And we were just getting to a really good place. We were getting a lot of coverage. People were talking about us. We were 1 week shy of our first birthday. And we had to shut down. And so far, it's just not been viable financially for me to open it again, because then I risk a lot of other costs in there. Right now we're able to look after our staff, at least, because the government in London has they've furloughed the staff, so they're able to pay their salaries. So to me, that was it, right? I mean, as somebody who set up a business, for me, my team was like my family. I've trained them, they've come in together with me. So it was not a matter of bringing in the profit or risking something to bring something in. I'd rather not make anything and be able to still sustain the staff and make sure that their households are sort of sustained, as opposed to try to see, will it work, will it not work? So we are just taking a step back. I am planning on eventually, when things calm down a little more in London, try to do takeaway and delivery. But then there's such a balance, right? Because you're bringing in your staff, you're risking COVID for them.
It's unpredictable.
It's so unpredictable.
Yeah.
And it's a brand new restaurant again. I wasn't 10th year in my business, so I knew exactly what to do. I was still making mistakes, and this is the worst time for us to be making mistakes, and when everything is just unstable.
And I think it's better to close during such a financial crisis, during such a financial crunch, and during a pandemic overall, than continue your business like that, because you might end up in a loss. You never know. You don't want to take your chance at that kind of a risk. So I think that's a wise decision. Another thing that has happened during this pandemic, small businesses have really thrived. Especially on social media, Instagram. There are so many home-based businesses that have started. So what is your take on that overall? And especially in Pakistan, that I've seen that there are a lot of localized home-based startups that are taking place. So what is your overall take on that?
So I'm a serial optimist, okay? So my take on that is that even in the worst of situations right now, the world has gone through perhaps, the worst thing it's ever been through, at least in our lives, our generations, for a long time. I think what's happened is that people have rallied around small businesses. They've rallied around people who are trying to make ends meet, or anyone who's kind of, doing something different, or not even doing something different. But people have supported, because what it's done to us is it's brought out the good in us. It's brought out the kindness in us. So, the kindness is what sort of was missing for the longest time in the rat race of everyone's making the money and everyone's trying to rush and do everything. That's why I think the small businesses have had a chance to sort of step up, and a lot of people have worked hard. They've pivoted their businesses overnight. People who've been doing things for years have had to, just so they could pay the bills, have had to turn around their business, shift their gear, change their model. And I think people have just really, I've seen it in Pakistan as well. On Instagram, you've got all these new young brands coming in, and for the first time, people are actually paying attention, because they want to help out. You want to give back. You want to make sure that, it's not just the big bad corporations that will benefit from it, because eventually that's what happens, right? The big bad corporations make all the money.
They do.
And but I think this is the first time you're seeing a lot more focus on, sort of the
small
smaller
brands,
businesses. And it's great, because that's what we need more of. You need more creativity. You need more entrepreneurial spirit for a country like Pakistan also to be pushed forward.
Definitely. Now, moving on, Aida, you obviously belong from London, but you keep traveling back and forth. So how is life like in London right now during a pandemic?
So life in London right now is almost like time has frozen, right? So it's, London used to be the most bustling city, right? And it was one of those places that you could almost call it the pulse of the world, because it's right in the middle, and there's a beat to it, and there's always, the lights are on, theaters are, there, the restaurants are on. It's quite a vibrant city. And it's taken a hit, because what are the industries that have taken a hit? The hospitality, entertainment, arts. That's what made London London. My heart is like, same. Pakistan is who I am. Pakistan is what has made me. But London has given me the chance to grow. That's where I've taken my brand. So I hold both of them dearly. And it is sad, but London is also quite resilient. I think that we're just waiting for the weather to change. Once the weather changes in London, even if there's a pandemic, and even if it is everything is shut down, you know that when the sun shines on London, it's a different city altogether. So quite hopeful for it. But right now it's quite quiet, and people are, I think, they're also a little exhausted of the constant lockdowns. We've had 3 lockdowns in a row. we open, then we close. We close, then we open little, then we close, then we open little. So it's been
a lot of
quite
unpredictable things going on. So, how is social media? Because social media plays a huge role in helping startups, not only just startups, but also restaurants grow in terms of their business. So, how, in your view, are the social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram specifically, catering to these mainstream restaurants in terms of business?
So I think, look, both markets are different, right? I think in Pakistan, I find the social media is the right social media is really helpful in kind of getting the word out, because you have the right sort of, if you have the, if you have the right kind of following, and it takes some time to sort of figure all of that out, but that does help to get the word out. It really helps. Although I also do find that mob mentality does exist in social media as well, unfortunately.
It does,
so
yeah.
When something goes really well, people may not talk about it that much, but the moment one thing goes wrong, then unfortunately we end up, literally, like, nobody thinks about the people behind the brand. Nobody thinks about the human beings that made that mistake that they're talking, that you're sort of attacking them for. You just see a mistake, you kind of call people out on it, and then it's over. It's the death of a business. In London, I think that it's a mixture. It's a lot of, social media is there, but sort of journalism also really helps. So being written about in magazines and all of that, the print media is quite still, I think, for restaurants, it is quite a big deal. Like here, we still don't have that kind of, you don't have the food critics. Everyone is a food critic, everyone's a critic, but I think that we still, the one thing that we're missing in Pakistan right now are proper food critics that we can trust, and to sort of, look at the food and kind of talk about it in a balanced way. That, I think, that's the biggest difference, I think, in terms of the two markets.
Great. And very lastly, Aida, towards the end, what more do you expect from your career outside of business?
From my career, I just think that once COVID is over, which just sounds right now like, it's just, when is it over?
Yeah.
What are we going to do with it? The world is my oyster. I really still feel that, look, my dream, honestly, is to be able to take Shola to different parts of the world. I think the kind of response we got to the Pakistani food in London in that 1 year was so heartwarming. It made me realize that there are, our food really, we just weren't getting the right attention for it. And I'd love to be able to, once all of this is over, sort of, fly the flag for Pakistani cuisine. And I think you're seeing a lot more Pakistani chefs come around as well, and that's amazing because they're being welcomed and people love Pakistani food, and they're differentiating now between the rest of the South Asian cuisine. You have Indian food, you have Bangladeshi food, you've got Sri Lankan food. All of that cuisine is there as well, and Pakistani food didn't have that kind of separation for a long time, especially in London, and even I think in America as well. It wasn't, it's all kind of clubbed together as South Asian food or Indian food. We were never told that, this is the best Pakistani restaurant, and Pakistani restaurants also was synonymous with being more sort of brick, hole in the wall kind of places that you wouldn't feel you could hang out with your kids at, or sort of have that ambiance. So I'm really trying to do that. So for my career, essentially, that's what I see. I'd love to write more about food. You can tell I love talking about food, so I'd love to speak more about food. But yeah, it's all food related, and it's all Pakistani food related. I'm really passionate about that element of the cuisine.
Great. Thank you so much, Aida, for joining me. It was a pleasure talking to you. That is all for now. Stay tuned for more on my official YouTube channel and Facebook page. Until then, take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.